New Mexico is a truly enchanted land, whose history goes back to the dawn of time. It is a land many say was forged by the hand of God. It is a land with a spiritual mystique from the beliefs of the ancient American people. A land of multicultures, blended into a diverse population of contrast and harmony. New Mexico is a land of modern cities, scientific study, and ancient dwellings. From the high deserts to the rugged mountains, New Mexico has a reverence for the land and its beauty. You can find that which you seek in New Mexico. New Mexico is located in the southwestern area of the United States. It borders Arizona on the west, shares the Rocky Mountains with Colorado on the north. The high plains of the east side melt into Oklahoma and Texas, and the south borders Texas and Old Mexico. The northwest corner lies at the junction of New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. Millions of years ago, repeated invasion of the seas that spread across the state left deposits of gypsum, limestone, and multicolored muds, sand, and boulder beds. The wind and ice continued the sculpture, creating the white, red, and other brilliantly hued formations that contribute much to the spectacular scenic beauty of the state. Volcanic action continued the sculpture as great flows of molten lava poured out for hundreds of miles, creating the rise in the western two-thirds of the state. The altitude in the state ranges from 2,876 feet to 13,160 feet. The average altitude is about 4,500 feet above sea level. You can walk into the crater of a volcano at Capulin Mountain in the area of Folsom. Near Los Alamos and Jemez, view the scenic beauty of the Valle Grande crater. Visit the lava beds at El Malpai near Grants. And see the Valley of Fires State Park at Carrizoso. Although New Mexico now is a semi-arid state, the land was once covered with the sea. When the waters receded, they left food for the earliest inhabitants, the dinosaurs, who in turn left their bones and footprints for the following generations to see and study. Dinosaur tracks are still visible at Clayton Lake State Park. When the seas moved south, the big game came to feed on the lush vegetation and were followed by the early hunters. Archaeological evidence of Clovis man and the later Folsom man has been found here. Prehistoric times can be relived at the Museum of Natural History in Albuquerque. Blackwater Draw Museum, located between Clovis and Portales, exhibits relics of early man. Following the early hunters came the ancestors of today's Pueblo Indians, the Anasazi and the Mogollon. They built their houses of rock, adobe, or carved shelter into the limestone cliffs. Though still a mystery, it is thought these homes were abandoned when the early people resettled closer to available water. Ruins of the ancient abandoned Indian pueblos can be visited at Chaco Canyon, Aztec ruins, Salmon ruins, all located in the Farmington Aztec Bloomfield area. Bandelier National Monument near Los Alamos, and the Gila Cliff Dwellings near Silver City. Try to read the messages left by the ancient dwellers at Three Rivers Petroglyph National Recreation Site near Carrizoso, and Indian Petroglyph State Park in Albuquerque. The Spaniards, led by Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, came exploring rumors of the 7 cities of gold. They entered the state at Zuni Pueblo, wintered at Tigüe Pueblo, and crossed the northern part of the state from west to east in their search. Not finding the treasures they were seeking, the Spaniards returned home. The ruins of Tigüe Pueblo can now be seen at Coronado Monument near Bernalillo, where the history of Coronado's expedition can be found by the present-day explorer. Today, traveling on Interstate 40, you are generally following Coronado's route. Coronado's expedition was soon followed by a colony led by Don Juan de Oñate, including Franciscan friars brought to do missionary work among the Indians. These settlers and soldiers traveled north from Mexico following the Rio Grande to establish their first colony at San Gabriel, near San Juan Pueblo. El Paso to Santa Fe, you are traveling the route of these Spanish settlers who established the El Camino Real, the King's Highway. When Pedro de Peralta assumed the post of first royal governor, he moved the settlement to a new location and called it Santa Fe, meaning Holy Faith. Now, more than 375 years old, Santa Fe is the oldest state capital in the United States. The Palace of Governors, built in 1610, still stands and is now a museum housing relics of New Mexico's history. The oldest church in the United States is in Santa Fe. Also, what might be the oldest house, thought by some to have been built around 1200, prior to the Spaniard settlement. The Franciscans worked among the Pueblo peoples, teaching Christianity and building mission churches. Unfortunately, they misunderstood the Indians' culture and religion. Their destruction of the sacred kivas brought about the Indian Revolt of 1680. The Spaniards were driven from the area and kept out for 12 years, but under the leadership of Don Diego de Vargas, returned to resettle. Evidence of this early settlement and revolt can be found at Abo, Gran Quivira, and Coray pueblos near Mountain Air. Pecos Monument near Pecos. And Jemez State Monument near Jemez Springs. The 21 Franciscans who lost their lives during this revolt are memorialized at the Cross of the Martyrs in Santa Fe. The colony soon expanded, and small groups of settlers, receiving land grants from the King of Spain, moved out of Santa Fe to create the villages of Santa Cruz de la Cañada and the Villa de Albuquerque. Other villages soon followed: San Miguel del Vado, Belén, Taos, Abiquiu, Bernalillo, building their churches. Houses of adobe. Planting and irrigating their crops, and adapting to a new way of life. Early colonial life is presented with a living museum at El Rancho de las Golondrinas in La Cienega, southwest of Santa Fe. The settlers continued to live their isolated existence until the Mexican Revolution in 1821, which won independence from Spain and now meant that the territory was ruled by Mexico. The Mexican government was not so strict about foreign intrusion, and soon traders from Missouri were hauling tons of goods to the eager consumers along the route that came to be known as the Santa Fe Trail. The trail actually entered the territory at two separate points. The Cimarron Cutoff entered north of Clayton, and the Mountain Branch entered at Raton Pass. The two branches came together at the junction of the Mora and Sapillo Rivers near Watrous, continuing on to Las Vegas and ending in Santa Fe. Not only goods came along the trail, Some traders came to stay and start businesses here. Among the first were Charles and William Bent and Saran and Marceline St. Vrain. Also, the trail brought the fur trappers, called mountain men, who settled near Taos and trapped in northern New Mexico. The best known of these was Christopher Kit Carson. Today, driving Interstate 25 from Raton Pass to Santa Fe, you are following the main branch of the Santa Fe Trail, with ruts still visible in many areas. Visit Clayton, Raton, Wagon Mound, Watrous, Springer, and Fort Union for stories of the old Santa Fe Trail. Mexico ruled until 1846, when the U.S. Army, led by General Stephen Kearny, entered the territory and claimed it for the United States. He appointed New Mexico's first Anglo-American governor, Charles Bent of Taos. Most settlers welcomed the Americans, but a few objected and skirmishes developed between the Army and some citizens. During the fighting, Governor Bent was assassinated at his house in Taos. He is buried at the National Cemetery in Santa Fe. This conflict was soon over, and the territory assumed a new character. More and more new settlers came in over the Santa Fe Trail, establishing homesteads, businesses, and new towns. Gold and silver were discovered, and mining camps flourished with populations numbering in the thousands. After a few years, however, most of these towns died when the veins could no longer be worked profitably. One notable exception was Silver City, which grew from a mining town to become one of the major cities in the southwestern area of New Mexico. Many old mining camps still exist and are worth a visit. Kingston, Hillsboro, Los Altos. Madrid, Golden, Mogollon, and White Oaks. A guided tour of Shakespeare takes you back in time to the days of the Old West. Several stage lines brought their stagecoaches to New Mexico, but the best known was the Butterfield Overland Mail Company, which opened the territory to cross-country travel by running stages twice a week across southern New Mexico. You can follow the route of the Butterfield Overland and tour the stage stop in Mesilla at the La Posta. On to Shakespeare, then to Steins, the last stop before passing through Steins Gap into Arizona. You can also view the old customs houses in Deming and Columbus. Outlaws, Comancheros, and raiding Indians plaguing settlers and travelers caused the creation of forts which were manned by the Army of the West, volunteers, and militia. You can still visit some of these old forts. Fort Union near Watrous was established to guard the Santa Fe Trail, and today exhibits a wealth of information on the early trail days. Fort Selden near Las Cruces and Fort Sumner were built to protect settlers from Indian raids and are today open to visitors. The Civil War involved New Mexico when General Sibley led his Confederate troops into the territory. The first major battle was at Val Verde, where the Confederates defeated the Union troops from Fort Craig. For almost a year, the Confederate flag flew over the plaza at Albuquerque and the Palace of Governors in Santa Fe. The occupation ended after the Confederate defeat at the Battle of Glorieta Pass. Many of the Union troops were withdrawn and sent east as the war continued, leaving many areas unprotected from raiding Indians. The volunteers, led by Scout Kit Carson and others, were assigned the task of subduing the raiders. The Apaches and Navajos were forced from their homelands and relocated at the reservation established at Fort Sumner. There they lived until they were finally returned to their lands. The Mescaleros to their reservation in the Sacramento Mountains. The Navajos to the Colorado Plateau in northwestern New Mexico and eastern Arizona. You can learn the story of Kit Carson by visiting his house and museum in Taos, where he is buried. Fort Sumner, guarding Bosque Redondo Reservation, where the Navajos and Apaches were forced to live, has been partially rebuilt and contains much information about this tragic period of New Mexico history. The need for beef to feed the reservation Indians and the Army personnel at the many forts brought about the large cattle drives from the ranches in Texas. The best known in New Mexico was the Goodnight Loving Trail, which followed the Pecos River to Fort Sumner, then on to the railhead in Kansas. Stop at Chicosa Lake State Park, near Roy, for a close-up view of longhorn cattle and a chuck wagon. This was a trail stop on the Goodnight Loving Cattle Trail. The first railroad to enter New Mexico was the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe, entering at Raton Pass and generally following the old Santa Fe Trail. The coming of the railroad removed New Mexico's isolation from the rest of the nation, replacing the very uncomfortable stagecoach rides, the transport of goods by wagon, and the need for the long cattle drives to Kansas. Many towns were created by the railroad. Existing communities grew to bustling towns when they were included on the railroad line, and some towns died when they were bypassed. You can enjoy the breathtaking scenery today by boarding the Cumbres Toltec Railroad at Chama and riding it to Colorado. You can also follow part of the old Santa Fe Trail while riding on Amtrak. Along with the good came the bad. The late 1800s brought prosperity to the territory, but with it came political and power struggles, cattle barons and cattle rustlers, gunfighters and train robbers. The territory became an unwilling host to some unsavory characters. Black Jack Ketchum liked to rob trains, but met his end at the end of a rope in Clayton. Bullet holes still adorn the ceiling of the St. James Hotel in Cimarron, and bullet holes in the walls of the hotel in Shakespeare attest to the quick tempers in the mining camps. The Wild West can be relived in Cimarron with a visit to the Old Mill Museum, which originally served as a flour mill. The St. James Hotel operates today, and some guest rooms bear the names of some of their better-known patrons. The most noted of New Mexico's gunfighters was Billy the Kid. His territory ranged from Silver City, where he came as a boy, to Fort Sumner, where he was killed at the home of Lucian Maxwell by Sheriff Pat Garrett. Billy became well known in the territory as a result of the land and power struggle in and around Lincoln, known to history as the Lincoln County War. The entire town of Lincoln is dedicated to the life and time of Billy the Kid and that turbulent time in history. Many artifacts can be viewed at the Billy the Kid Museum in Fort Sumner, or you can visit his grave just outside of town. This period in New Mexico's history wasn't all gunfighting and range wars. The noted Methodist missionary, Thomas Harwood, built churches and schools, along with the Baptists, Episcopalians, and Presbyterians. And John Baptiste Lamy became the Bishop of Santa Fe and built over 40 new Catholic churches in the territory. You can visit these old churches in almost any town or village in northern New Mexico. Higher education was also important to the residents. The territorial government established the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque. New Mexico State University in Las Cruces. Western New Mexico University in Silver City. New Mexico Highlands University in Las Vegas. New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology in Socorro. And Eastern New Mexico University in Portales. New Mexicans have a history of serving their country starting before statehood with the Spanish-American War, and have been serving bravely ever since. Navajos contributed greatly during the Second World War with their Navajo code talkers, and the entire nation knows of the gallant New Mexicans who suffered the Bataan Death March. The Rough Riders Museum in Las Vegas contains relics and mementos of Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders. And almost every town in the state contains a memorial to those who served in each war. New Mexico claims a battle unique to this state. In the pre-dawn hours of March 9, 1916, about 1,000 Mexican bandits, led by Francisco Pancho Villa, entered the New Mexico border town of Columbus and attacked the citizens and soldiers stationed at nearby Camp Furlong. Even though they were outnumbered 3-1, the soldiers and citizens routed the bandits who were burning and looting the town. Under the command of General John J. Blackjack Pershing, the American troops followed Villa's band into Mexico. It was to be the first time in history that motorized vehicles and aircraft would be used in warfare. You can learn the complete story of this conflict by visiting the museum in historic Columbus. New Mexico Territory was granted statehood in 1912, becoming the 47th star on the U.S. flag. The first elected governor was William C. McDonald of Carrizozo. The people and the land are continuing the tradition of service to the nation. Dr. Goddard, the father of the rocket, did his work in Roswell. His early rocket is on display at Roswell Museum and Art Center. The scientists during World War II found Los Alamos the ideal place for their laboratories. It was here they created the first atomic bomb and at Trinity Site near Alamogordo that the weapon was tested. Research and development continues today not only for defense, but for humanity's benefit. Clear blue skies and open spaces provide an ideal area for studying the sun and stars, and for communication with space vehicles. Sacramento Peak Observatory at Sunspot, near Cloudcroft, studies solar-induced effects. And the VLA, Very Large Array, near Magdalena, takes radio photographs of the stars and planets, aiding in our knowledge of the universe. The Los Alamos Museum shows the history and future of scientific exploration. The Space Hall of Fame in Alamogordo houses a very good look at the U.S. space program. Much of New Mexico's wealth lies in its natural resources. Our land helps to supply the nation with lumber. Oil, gas, minerals. Coal, and electrical power. You can descend into a realistic uranium mine at the Museum of Mining in Grants, or visit the colorful copper mines near Silver City. Even though we have a limited water supply, by damming our rivers, we are able to store water to irrigate the land and grow feed for the livestock. Food and fruit for the people. And create an industry based on the production of cotton, pecans, peanuts, pistachios, and the all-important chile. The major rivers in New Mexico are the Canadian and Pecos on the east side, San Juan, Animas, and Gila on the west, and the Rio Grande, which flows down the center from border to border. The lakes created by the dams also furnish the people with opportunity for many water sports. The rivers and snow-fed streams provide sport for the fishermen. Cattle ranching became a very important industry during territorial days and continues today. Since the day of the early Spaniards, sheep ranching has contributed much to the economy of the state. The groundwater, pumped by the windmills, waters our cattle, horses, sheep, and goats. The quiet beauty of our mountains and forests are popular for backpacking, hiking, camping, hunting, and fishing. New Mexico has two large wilderness areas, the Gila and Pecos, and other national forests have areas set aside for hiking and backpacking. Almost all have camping and picnicking areas. We are an old land, and we treasure our history while looking forward to our future. Some of our villages remain almost as they were in the days of the early Spaniards. While cities like Albuquerque rival big cities anywhere. Many structures have been preserved and appear on the state and national historic registers. You can still enjoy the hospitality of many for an overnight stay or a fine meal. Much of the Indian population of the state still lives in its pueblos and on its reservations. But while they retain their proud heritage and traditions, they are as much a part of the present and future as the other residents. Their arts and crafts are treasured around the world. Each pueblo is represented at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Arts Center in Albuquerque. Their exhibits tell of their history, and many arts and crafts are available for sale there. Artists and writers. boasts numerous museums dedicated to varying interests. Is home of the Santa Fe Opera, several symphony orchestras, and almost every community has an active little theater group. Coronado may have been disappointed at not discovering his treasure here, but those of us who followed after have found ours in this land of sunshine and blue skies. Experience the enchantment. Experience the fun. Experience the beauty of New Mexico. Experience New Mexico.